Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in my constructed video series. This is Brian Kibler with StarCityGames.com. As you can see on your screen, we're going to be playing some Modern this week. And it's funny, I played the Bant Collected Company deck at the Grand Prix and it didn't do particularly well. In fact, it did quite poorly. But I had experimented with a variety of different Collected Company decks, and where I started, as you all know, if from reading my articles and watching my videos, was with Naya. And the Naya Collected Company deck that I built, turns out, was a couple of cards different than the version that Paul Rietzel and Matt Sperling played at the Grand Prix, where Rietzel finished in 10th place and Sperling finished with 3 losses overall. So it was funny that the deck that I had sort of initially had this inclination that it would be a strong choice, but had ended up dismissing because I wasn't having much success with it. Turned out to be a deck that performed very, very well at the tournament. I was actually kind of joking around with Matt and Paul. They're like, oh, we can teach you how to play Naya. There's this Knight of the Reliquary card and this Wild Nakatl card, and they're both really good. And it was pretty amusing because literally this list is a handful of cards off of what I had originally built, and even has some of my favorite cards in the game. Even in like the sideboard. With Thalia and Bonfire, even the cards that I play much more than other people, which I just thought was kind of amusing. But basically, as I said when I was testing my own version, the sort of core of this deck is using efficient creatures to pressure your opponent, and some of the best removal spells in the game, and backing all that up with sort of the longer game plan of Collected Company. Collected Company gives you the ability to generate threats at instant speed, as well as to sort of win an attrition-based game in some matchups where that is how games play out. It is powerful both in the fact that you can win a longer game against a controlling deck such as Jund or Abzan because you have access to Collected Company, and also just the tactical advantage that it gives you from being able to generate threats at the end of your opponent's turn. That both allows you to sort of pass the turn with mana up against combo decks, or to play more sort of sneakily around your opponent's counter magic. This is a deck that actually matches up extremely well against one of the most popular counterspells in the format, which is Remand. Counterspells in general are typically good against decks that have somewhat larger, higher casting cost threats. But between Loxodon Smiter and Collected Company, you have a lot of tools that allow you to play around those counter magic effects very, very well. So anyway, I don't want to really feel like there's too much to go into with this list specifically, because I played one extremely recently that's very similar. I do like a lot of the choices that Paul made in his sideboard, or Paul and Matt. Grim Lavamancer was a card that I was also playing before. Similarly with Firewalker, Thalia, having creatures in your sideboard is a little bit more powerful than having spells in a lot of cases when you do have access to Collected Company. You don't want to go too far. One of the initial builds of the Collected Company list that I was toying with, had 15 creatures in the sideboard, and it was just not really all that effective. Because you were giving up a lot of the more powerful cards like things like Stony Sounds or Blood Moon, Choke. Bonfire. I actually literally was talking about how I thought that I was missing Bonfire, and incidentally, both Paul and Matt ended up playing it. One of the cards that's interesting and sort of an overlap is Magus of the Moon. Being able to dig for Magus of the Moon with Collected Company is very, very powerful against decks like Amulet that rely very heavily on their ability to access it's their mana from the non-basic lands. Amulet's one of the most powerful cards decks in the format, and having a powerful tool that you can dig for against them, like Magus, can really sort of help put them away. So anyway, that's really all I particularly have to say about this deck. It is amusing to me that I ended up not playing something like this, and that others did and were very successful, because this is exactly what the deck that I want to play in every tournament. But anyway, I'm gonna play it now. Here's my opportunity. So let's take it for a spin.